what I've got here is a back panel. Now I just need to figure out how the hell I'm going to make it. Yeah, your boy is still out here veneering this cabinet together. We're gonna get to the end of this one day, I promise. But right now, here is my dilemma. I have a bunch of veneers that I'm gonna use for the back panel. And while they're lovely, they're wonderful, you do a lot of book matches or slip matches or reverse matches, there's a lot of things you can do with them. I rarely veneer a back panel. What I want to do is use a frame and panel, but there's no functional reason to use a frame and panel here, because the back panel, of course, will be stable. It will be made out of MDF and veneered. So the question is, do I use a frame and panel anyway as an aesthetic choice, or do I lean into the fact that the entire cabinet is veneered? So here is where the cabinet stands currently. This hasn't moved much. The last video we did the doors are done, they're looking beautiful. Now, back of this cabinet, my original intention, as I said, was to make a frame and panel, to highlight where the shelves fall, to highlight the verticals. And I didn't even consider the fact that because it's veneered, I didn't have to do that because I'm so used to doing that. But now, as I stand here and look at it, does a frame and panel actually fit this design? The entirety of the cabinet is veneered. All of these components are very clearly veneered. And I don't know that I'm doing anything, I'm not adding anything to the composition by making it a frame and panel. So I think what I'm about to do is cut up my veneers, stitch them up as though it's going to be a single panel. These are still going to be very intentionally cut. Each one of these two components is going to be book matched in a way that mirrors the internal component here, and we'll get into all of that in a moment. But I think I'm just gonna stitch up the veneers and take a look at it and see if it's pretty enough to do without a frame and panel. And if it is, maybe I'll go with that. If it's not, if it bores me, if it's not great, then I'm gonna have to consider how I'm gonna zhuzh it up. Now, this has nothing to do with the video we're making. This is pure woodworking joy, and I want to take those moments from time to time to acknowledge that woodworking is still a thing that you love, that I love, that brings me a lot of joy, and sometimes still, even after all these years, there are moments of exhilaration and excitement, and this is one of those moments. So I have had that plane for exactly 10 years. That was a gift that was bought for me in 2014 when I was an assistant in a class up in Maine. And it's by a plane maker named H&T Gordon out of Australia, who in my opinion is one of the best production tool makers in the world. It is a stunning plane. It is a perfectly functioning tool. And I have wanted their smoothing plane since the day I got that thing. And frankly, I've never been able to afford one. I never could get my hands on one. But today I went to Hearn Hardwoods for their open house, and my wonderful friend Leslie of Heartwood Tools had a booth over there, and I decided that I was going to buy myself a birthday present. And now I get to actually put it together and use the damn thing, so let's just do that. So this is made from Gidgee, which is a super dense tropical hardwood. Like even just this little stick, like it feels, I don't know what the Janka hardness is, but density, like it feels like in the Cocobolo range, you know? It is thick with 2 C's. Nice little wedge there. It's so sexy. Look at that facet right there. Look at that line. It's just so damn beautiful. Now listen, I know this video is not about a plane, and that's fine. I'm not gonna linger on it too long, but it really is just a joy when you have those moments in your woodworking journey where you get to feel like a kid again. That doesn't happen all that often as adults. Like, we grow up and we lose that sense of awe and wonder because we've seen things, we've been places. The world is big and wonderful and yet small and easily accessible at the same time. So when those moments do come, when you finish a piece, when you get your first commission, when you get a tool that you have wanted to have for a decade, and you get it in your hands and you get a chance to put it together and use it. Those are moments as human beings that I think that we should savor and appreciate. Not just woodworkers trying to get a damn job done, but it's just a moment. So forgive me for having a moment. I'm gonna put this together and use it, and it will be delightful, and then we'll get back to making things out of veneer. Now, I'm not a shavings guy, but like that, that is half, it's stupid is what it is. Like it's cotton candy is what's happening there. Oh boy. All right, let's try it in the pull and on something figured. And just the delight in the surface is just, oi. Guys, I think I'm in love. Now, hand planes aside, I know that was a silly little distraction, and I hope it wasn't too distracting from the point of this video, but it was a genuine moment of joy and human emotion, and I think that's important to share with the world, that we still experience joy and not just rage. So there that is. But that aside, I'm not going to pretend like I have that much to add in the way of narration on this video, because the reality is this is the 4th video in a row I've been working on this cabinet, and you've seen me in each one of those previous videos stitch and veneer surfaces and components for this cabinet, so there's no reason to cover that specifically. But instead, I think what's important to note is finding the thing that keeps your interest in woodworking. I know I'm going to take some heat in the comments about why did I just watch you veneer a back panel for 20 minutes? You could have just done it in 5 minutes and had it done. Or what's more, just order pre-veneered plywood and use that for the back panel. And that's a totally fair critique. But the thing that interests me in my work is trying to attempt things that I've never attempted before and create effects that I'm unsure if I can accomplish it. And maybe that's not the thing that interests you.
Maybe building efficiencies is what interests you. Repetition could be what interests you, similar to the way that Sam Maloof used to work. He used to make the same thing over and over and tweak it ever so slightly, and that's a perfectly good way to work. So I have the way that I like to work, but I encourage you to find the thing that interests you, that keeps you building things, because ultimately knowing that about yourself is what's going to make you a better woodworker in the long term.
All right, let's talk about some of the design choices. So, as we established at the beginning, the primary concern as far as design goes was whether or not to make this into a frame and panel or leave this just a true veneered panel. It's always amazing how as soon as you hit the record button, they start making noise. Not a peep for the last 2 hours. Now all of a sudden, it's impossible. It's impossible. The moment you hit record, without a doubt, every time. So, the first thing I did was lay up this side of the panel. And frankly, it looks pretty good. And this had to happen in a number of different ways. I had to lay up the center of the panel, then I had to lay up the two exterior components to go in the side, the two outside cavities of this cabinet, which means I had to get the seam between these three separate layups exactly right so that the seam falls right on the uprights, which is not that hard, but it is time consuming. So I essentially have three different patterns. The center pattern, which is book matched with the sap line, and the two exterior patterns, which have a double book match with, it's not a sap line, but this lighter streak that kind of runs up through here, which is quite lovely. But I looked at it, it's a little too angular, it's a little too busy for the inside of the cabinet. So what I decided to do was to try again on the outside. Now my original pan...
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
My original plan for the back of this panel was to just do a simple book match all the way across. But because I didn't particularly care for the pattern that developed on the other side, I decided to try to do the same thing with some straighter grain on this side. And if it worked better, I could use that for the inside. So that's exactly what I did. Same exact pattern, same process. Developed the center pattern, which ended up needing to be book matched a couple of times to get some nice straight lines. And then have a single book match with that lighter streak down the center for the exterior components. These people don't want me to get any work done today, man. Now, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think this is far superior from the inside. Not that the inside is ugly by any stretch of the imagination, or I should say the other side of this panel. It's actually quite lovely. It's just too busy for the inside of this cabinet, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with this thing that's a little bit subtler, a little bit straighter, just as much figure, and really quite lovely and balanced feeling. So that's the plan. That said, because these veneers are so lovely and this pattern is working as well as it is working as well as it is, words are hard, you all know the drill.
Hip hop? Hip hop anonymous?
I think I'm not gonna book match this. I don't see a reason to book match this, but I won't know that for sure until I actually put it into the cabinet. So my next steps are going to be to square off all of the internal components in there so that I can move them to their final depth, cut them all to their final width, and then inset the back panel into the cabinet, and we can get an actual look at the thing. So let's do that. that's where I'm gonna leave this one for now, because I have to skip town tomorrow and travel yet again. But it looks good as far as our design considerations are concerned. There's loads of visual movement, but yet it feels balanced and harmonious on those two exterior cabinets, compartments. It's like, words are hard. These two regions, and then in the middle, that strong sap line really, I think, balances it all out. Now, it's important to remember there will be a door right here, which will have that same sap line pattern out here. So you'll see basically that same pattern here, and then when you open it up, it will be reflected in the back of that cavity as well. So I think the way that it looks now does not require a frame and panel. I feel good about it. That's the choice I'm going with, and I'm justifying it. But for now, friends, I'm gonna go skip town, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful, helpful, entertaining, all of the things. Go check out the Patreon, the Woodworking is Bullshit podcast, check out the merch, all the things I usually say at the end of the video. And now I'm gonna leave. So I'll catch y'all in the next one. Cheers.